Some rappers continue to commit terrible crimes even after fame. Here's a list of the worst crimes committed by famous rappers. Once Pooh Shiesty became famous, he used a firearm towards 3 people. This has left the rapper sentenced to 8 years in prison. Via Instagram DMs, Shiesty set up a meet with 2 people for high-end sneakers and narcotics in a parking lot. Shiesty arrives driving a bright green McLaren sports car, wanting to pick up high-end sneakers and narcotics from 2 individuals. While discussing the prices of these goods, Shiesty was seen on video surveillance pulling a firearm out of his waistband and using it towards these 2 men. After hitting one in the hip and the other in the backside, Shiesty then hopped back into his McLaren with the goods. While trying to make a quick getaway, a Louis Vuitton bag fell out of his McLaren and was left at the scene. Pooh Shiesty headed to the airport and then rented a private jet and flew out of there before law enforcement had the chance of arresting him. Without realizing this, Pooh Shiesty just committed an armed robbery right beside a police station, as the video surveillance you see of the crime was recorded by a local police station. Not to mention, Pooh Shiesty posted a selfie with the exact same McLaren he did in an armed robbery in on Instagram. Not too long after, while the King of Diamonds Club Memphis rapper Pooh Shiesty was performing for a crowd, and during his performance, Pooh Shiesty was seen having 40,000 cash sitting in his skinny jean pockets. According to the arrest warrant, Pooh Shiesty was performing at the club when someone in the crowd knocked a stack of cash out of his back pocket. The crowd took the 40,000 cash and ran out the club. Pooh Shiesty stormed out the club after the individuals, and while exiting the club, Shiesty was caught on film pulling a firearm out of his waistband. A few moments after, a firearm was used outside of the club towards a security guard, and a witness claims it was Shiesty who did the act. One of the crimes King Von is most notable for is for what happened to the rival street member, K.I. At a very young age, K.I.'s father passed, which forced her to live with her mom and brother on 63rd Street in Chicago. 63rd, home of famous rapper FBG Duck, is O Block's biggest rival in Chicago. With K.I. being seen in FBG Duck's early music videos, this made O Block's member know what crew she was with. King Von, who was 17 at the time, ran into K.I. for the first time on a public train. Von and his crew dealt with K.I. without the use of firearms, mocking the situation on Twitter and heating things up between the 2 blocks. With things heating up, K.I. would lose her cousin named Taekwon Tyler, who was a little brother to her. She cried all night and made a promise online she would avenge him. At this time, King Von would tweet at her every morning before eventually noticing her at a local corner store. King Von and his crew approached the store before the owner quickly locked the doors. Von would then tweet this when he left. Around this time, theories were floating around that K.I. avenged her cousin Taekwon and was involved with the passing of 2 O Block members. King Von knew what needed to be done. In April of 2014, 63rd was having a barbecue celebrating the life of the past member. King Von got word about the celebration and made a move. Around 1:30 p.m. on 63rd Street, King Von drove down, exiting his vehicle, and walked down an alley between the neighbor's house before peeking up and using his firearm towards a group of 20 people. K.I. passed during the situation. Another famous King Von case involves Lil Durk. The forgotten case of Lil Durk begins in 2019. Rappers Lil Durk and King Von were out in Atlanta at a restaurant called The Varsity. Outside of the club, law enforcement claimed they have a video evidence on Lil Durk using a firearm towards an individual named Alexander Witherspoon. This was after Durk and King Von snatched his chain. According to the police reports, records claim that the 2 rappers were at a recording studio throughout the night, then went to the gas station before going to the Varsity for food. At the Varsity parking lot is where Durk and Von found Witherspoon. After snatching his chain and allegedly robbing him for $30,000, Durk and Von stole his vehicle and proceeded to drive away. When driving away, a video footage caught Lil Durk sticking his arm out the window and using a firearm towards Witherspoon, then driving away from the scene. A warrant went out for Lil Durk's arrest. Before turning himself into jail, he released a hit song, Turn Myself In, claiming that he's innocent in this case and that he would get through it with no issues. A judge granted Lil Durk and King Von bond in this court case. Durk's bond was $250,000 with conditions that he's not allowed near firearms and can't have contact with anybody involved in the court case. This is the reason Lil Durk wasn't with King Von the day he sadly passed in Atlanta, in case you didn't know. Next rapper is NLE Choppa. On the night of March 28, 2021, NLE Choppa and his 2 best friends named Zeria Matlock and Tawny Coleman were arrested on 3 charges. Charges of burglary, carrying a concealed firearm, as well as carrying narcotics. A few days prior to their arrest, NLE Choppa left his Rolex watch in the glove box of his vehicle. That car was towed for illegal parking. That rapper's vehicle was brought into a tow yard. The 3 men tracked down the car and waited till it was nighttime. NLE Choppa and Matlock hopped the fence and entered the tow yard, then scanned it through looking for the car that was towed. Sadly, they had no luck finding it. Funny enough, the car they were looking for was in a different tow yard down the street. NLE Choppa and Matlock hopped the fence again in, but in the process they ended up tripping the motion detection lights, in which immediately caused the police to the location. NLE Choppa and Matlock quickly entered their 2019 Ford Expedition, but police didn't arrive on the scene and conduct a felony traffic stop. While the law enforcement was talking to them, they asked them to step out of the vehicle, and in the process of them getting out of the car, their firearms were sitting right out in the open, as they were sitting on them to hide them from the law enforcement. When exiting the vehicle, firearms could be seen on the top of the back seat, which quickly alerted law enforcement to arrest NLE Choppa and his two friends for carrying firearms and not making it clear to law enforcement at the scene that they had it on them. During the search of their SUV, a backpack was found containing substances, which is another charge added to the list. To make it even worse as well is that neither of the three men had a valid concealed carry firearm permit or were even at the age of 21. NBA Youngboy. This court case begins on March 10, 2021. NBA Youngboy was charged with 1 count of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, as well as 1 count of possession of a firearm not registered on the National Firearms Registration. As NBA Youngboy was recording a music video out on the streets in his neighborhood, an older lady who lives on the street called the police as she was worried. 10 to 15 men were standing around a vehicle, recording a music video, flashing firearms around loaded with high-capacity magazines. Youngboy's lawyers were able to get the rapper on house arrest. When law enforcement directed NBA Youngboy to turn himself into jail for trial to begin, he was a no-show. NBA Youngboy then decided to duck the enforcement, which made the FBI get involved, which made things get ugly fast. NBA Youngboy was leaving his mansion in his vehicle without knowing down the street the FBI was doing a stakeout on his house waiting for him. NBA Youngboy was then spotted on the highway and directed to pull his car over. After pulling his car over, the FBI agent started heading out of his vehicle to approach Youngboy. Then Youngboy floored his vehicle down the highway, which starts a high-speed chase down the highway. Traffic started to become an issue for Youngboy, which made him turn off the highway into the streets, and the chase continued until NBA Youngboy hopped out of his car and took the chase on foot. Youngboy was wearing skinny jeans, designer shoes, and a heavy diamond chain, which isn't the best to wear when running from the FBI. The FBI set up a trap around the area of NBA Youngboy by using K9 units, roadblocks, and helicopters. Youngboy then cut through some houses and landed in a fan's backyard, where he was seen and recorded sprinting away from the FBI agent, right before sadly getting caught. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. Some rappers continue to commit terrible crimes even after fame. Here's a list of the worst crimes committed by famous rappers.